Hello, we're going to look at common factors of polynomials. Essentially, to do that, what we're going to do is find the factors of each monomial separately and then look at what they have in common. Here are the steps just to kind of list them out there for you. Step number one is that you would list each monomial as a product of primes, its prime factors. Then you would find the elements or the factors that are common, and then you cool down and hunker down with a nice cup of hot chocolate because you're done. There really are only two steps. So we're going to do those first two steps, and it'll show you exactly how you would find common factors within a polynomial. In our first example, we're going to look at the monomials 12x squared and 15x to the power of 3. Or in other words, 15x cubed. We're going to follow those steps. Step number one, we list the prime factors of both of these terms. 12x squared is the same as saying 2 times 2 times 3 times x squared. Those are the prime factors. Oftentimes this is called prime factorization of that number. So there we go. So 12x squared is the same as 2 times 2 times 3 times x squared. And 15x to the power of 3 is the same as 3 times 5 times x cubed, or x to the power of 3. These are the list of prime factors that you have inside of each of these terms. The second step is that you look for common elements between the two. So, between all of these prime factors here and these prime factors here, what we have in common is we have a factor of 3 and we have x squared. Notice with this one we do have x to the power of 3, but we can only take what we have in common from both. So we have 2x times x here, so we would have x squared in this one, and we can take x squared out of that. So that's what we have in common. That's going to be our greatest common factor. Multiply 3 times x squared for our greatest common factor between these two monomials. In our next example, we're using the variable a, and our two terms are 24a to the power of 4 and 6a. We're going to follow exactly the same steps. List prime factors. The prime factors of 24a to the power of 4 are 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times a to the power of 4. The prime factors of 6a are 3 times 2 times a. It doesn't matter what order you list them in. I notice I listed 2 times 3 here and I listed 3 times 2 there. Does not matter. Does not make a bit of difference. The next step is that we look at our common elements. What do we have the same between those? Well, we've got a 3 in both. We've got 1, 2 down here, so we can take one of the 2's from up there. We have 1a in 6a, so we can take one of the a's from there as well. Meaning, what the things that we have exactly in common are 3 times 2 times a. Or in other words, 6a. It's interesting that that is one of our terms, 6a, and that is the greatest common factor as well. Our final example is looking at the terms 81y squared and 144y to the power of 3. We're looking for greatest common factors, so we're going to follow those same steps. We're going to list the prime factors. 81 is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and y squared is y squared. 144 is our next one here, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times y to the power of 3. Wow, that's a lot. So we've got that all set, and that's exactly our prime factors. Now when we're looking for the common elements, we have to look through and see which ones are in both places. In both numbers we have 2 3's, 3 times 3, and we have y squared in both. Again, we have that same situation where we do have y to the power of 3 here, but what we have in common between both is y squared. So that's what we can take from both. And so our greatest common factor is 9y squared. So the steps, again, that you would follow to find common factors between different monomials inside of a polynomial are, step number 1, you would list each monomial as a product of its prime. And then step 2 is that you would find the elements that are common. And then, again, take a bit of a rest, a break, because that's all, you're done.